Whenever I get my hands on a really special car like this RS6 GT, I try my best to take it to an equally special location. A couple of years ago, I took Audi's R8 GT down to the Alps, but this time I decided to come out to the beautiful Isle of Man. Massive thanks to my good friends at GT85 for sponsoring this video. Audi only produced 660 of these for the entire world, and only 60 of those were right-hand drive examples. Each car is individually numbered. Inside on the center console, you'll see the number of the car. And this particular one is 659, meaning it is the second last one to be produced. And in fact, number 660, well, that belongs to Audi Sport in Germany, and that will end up in their museum. So it's very cool that this is the second last RS6 GT to roll off the production line. These are priced at £178,000, making them 60 grand more than an entry-level RS6 Performance that they're based on. But that doesn't matter because they've all sold. If you want one today, looking online, well, there's a few speculators out there with lightly used ones for 240 grand. There are just 3 available colours or liveries for your GT. You can get it in black, you can get it in Nardo grey, or you can get it in white. And I must admit, before taking delivery of this car, white was probably my least favourite. I've seen it plenty online from its launch last year, but I'd never seen one up close and personal. And after living with this one, especially now it has some dirt down the side, I absolutely love it. And so does everyone else. The livery itself actually harps back to a 1989 Audi 90 Quattro IMSA race car. Thankfully, the GT is more than just a Larry livery. For instance, it has a carbon bonnet, carbon front wings, which have beautiful air breathers around the back, slightly restyled front end, and a new splitter. And when we get around the side of the car, we've got these gorgeous retro 22-inch forged alloy wheels. They hark back to the 1990s again, and in particular, cars like the Audi S4 and S6 from that era, albeit a lot smaller back in those days. But it's what's going on behind these wheels, which is potentially, in my opinion, the GT's biggest upgrade. You see, this car comes standard with a fully adjustable coilover suspension setup, and it's absolutely sublime. It also means that this sits 10 millimeters lower than the RS6 Performance. When we get around the back of the car, we have this larger boot spoiler, a unique GT diffuser, and this extra panel that sits in the boot lid. It essentially smooths out the rear profile of the car. Underneath this gorgeous carbon fibre bonnet, we'll find Audi's familiar 4-litre V8 twin turbo. This lump is essentially unchanged compared to the RS6 Performance, but that still means 630 horsepower, 850 newton meters of torque. And because the GT weighs a little bit less, and I think the gearbox software has been tweaked a little bit to give you quicker gear changes, well, this car will do a claimed 0 to 60 mile an hour in just 3.2 seconds. And we'll be testing that a little bit later. It will also go on to a limited top speed of 190 miles an hour. Jumping inside, and there have been some small and big changes. Let's start with the small ones. Well, firstly, we have Alcantara, or Dynamica, whatever Audi call it, absolutely everywhere. Top of the dash, the door cards, on the headlining, even the sun visors and the steering wheel with a flat bottom wheel. Then we get down here at the infotainment screen. And in fact, if you continue swiping left away from all of the features and functions on here, you're left with a beautiful image of this exact spec RS6 GT. The last small detail from what I can tell is this RS6 GT 659 out of 660 cars. Now let's move on to the big change. As you might have already guessed and seen, it's these carbon bucket seats. I absolutely love them. They are extremely comfortable. I can tell you that because I've spent a lot of hours in this driver's seat over the past 5 days. In fact, I've done nearly 800 miles. They're also very supportive. They're easier to get in and out of compared to BMW's carbon bucket seats, so they're a lot more usable, if you like. But the main advantage of them is they lower the driving position. So I'm sitting probably 3 inches lower than I would be in a traditional RS seat. It also adds to the overall feel of the car and the chassis. I've talked about that with the current M2, M3 and M4. When you're in the carbon bucket versions of those cars, you get more feel because you can feel what the car's doing through the seat of your pants. And that is also the case in this car. Massive thanks to GT85 for sponsoring this video. I'm down here at Swift Performance in Aylesbury, and I'm going to head inside and show you some tricks and tips and benefits with using GT85 on your car. We're now inside, and that is my M2. Tim is actually installing a brake cooling kit, but he's just lubricated those Jubilee clips with GT85. Number one, they're easier to tighten because they are lubricated. But number two, they are less prone to corroding now. Because they're under the car and exposed to all elements, including salt, which we have a lot of in the UK, they're now lubricated and protected with GT85. Fabian, would you mind telling us what you can use GT85 for?
I use it as a lubricant on like the cylinder heads just before they're about to go for cleaning, or if they're just going to sit for a little while so I don't get any corrosion on the top of their cylinder heads or anything. So basically it protects it and stops any dirt and dust getting stuck in before I cover it. So then when it comes to rebuild, I can wash it all back down, everything runs off, then I can assemble the cylinder head. But yeah, on a bike I use it for even cleaning the chain, lubricate the chain. I even used it to wipe down the bike after, even as like a rain repellent.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. I'm 45 years young, and I've shamelessly never been to the Isle of Man. Not through lack of trying. Back in 2018, I was invited out here with Audi UK for the then new TT. Unfortunately, my flight was cancelled for that launch, and because there's so few flights out here, I didn't get to come. A year later, in 2019, Patrick and I had planned to come out here and film the then new 1 Series, the M135i, the F40 generation. We got to the ferry port and the ferry was cancelled due to high winds, which was the same reason that the flight was cancelled a year earlier. Third time lucky, here I am. And boy, oh boy, what a place, even at the start of February. Thankfully, I've booked 4 days here, and this is the 4th and final day because the past 3 days have mostly been rain, drizzle, a bit of hail, very cold, very windy. Most of us associate the Isle of Man with the Isle of Man TT motorcycle race, a lap of the island, just under 38 miles. And the current lap record holder, Peter Hickman, who's a factory BMW rider, has done that lap in 16 minutes and 36 seconds on his M1000 RR Superbike. To put that metric into something that's maybe more translatable, his average speed around the island is 136.3 miles per hour. Average speed. It's a sight to behold on video, and I'm sure in real life it's next level. So my hat comes off to each and every single one of those riders, especially Peter, for that awesome lap. It's on YouTube. Just search lap record Peter Hickman Isle of Man TT 2023. It will blow your mind. Aside from the beautiful scenery and this wonderful tarmac, what makes the Isle of Man so unique is its national speed limit, or lack thereof. A road like this back in Wales or Scotland, you'd be lucky if you could do 50 or 60 miles an hour, which is the maximum speed on a single carriageway driving a car. But out here, when you see the national speed limit applies sign, well, when you factor in they don't have a speed limit, you can basically go as fast as you want, providing it's safe to do so. A day like today, beautiful weather, dry tarmac, plenty of vision up here, not many other vehicles on the road, no pedestrians or cyclists or tractors. Really allows you to use all of the car's performance. And this car has got a lot of performance. In fact, it's got more than a lot of performance. It's got GT. You see what I did there? I had actually planned to film this video on the mountain section of the TT course, but because it's quite a busy commuting road, in the few days that I've been here, I decided against it and decided to come to one of these back roads. This particular road is actually a rally stage and a hill climb. I mean, does it get any better than that? But yesterday afternoon, when the rain decided to finally stop, and just before it got dark, I took this car up to the mountain section, switched the cameras on, so I could show you a little bit of what the TT course looks like. So let's rewind to then. You can join me back here and we can actually review the RS6 GT. I wanted to bring you along and just show you what this place is like on a section of the Isle of Man TT course. So we're leaving Ramsey now, which has a 30-mile-an-hour limit. Nothing new. Most towns, cities, etc. in the UK are either 20 or 30, and this is 30, as it says up there on the sign. Now this is, in fact, part of the actual course. You can see the checkered flag along the curb there. But as we leave Ramsey and head over the mountain towards Douglas, well, there's no speed limit there. So we're just going to go through the hairpin, which for anyone that's watched the Isle of Man TT, you will know this. I think it's the slowest bit of the whole course, especially when you take into consideration how fast their average speed is. That in front of us is a national speed limit sign. And because we're on the Isle of Man, well, that means we can basically go as fast as we want, providing it's safe to do so. It has just rained and hailed really hard, and it's quite cold outside, so conditions are far from perfect. It's also 4 o'clock on a weekday, and therefore there's a fair amount of traffic on the road. So we're gonna drive to the conditions, which is what you should always do anyway. But obviously out here where much bigger speeds are possible, you really need to take heed of that and not drive like a complete lunatic. It feels so naughty the first time you do it, really does. I've been here for a couple of days now, so I'm kind of getting used to it. I just hope that I can adapt back the other way when I take the ferry home tomorrow night, but I can deal with that tomorrow. Talking to Peter Duke the other day, he said that it's one thing knowing the layout of the course, the corners, the gears you should be in, etc. But it's another thing knowing all of the little bumps, because it's the bumps when you're near the limit, it's those that will cause an accident. Very similar to out of the Nürburgring, when I speak to someone like Misha, and he explains and tells me about all the little tiny bits, details that maybe most people wouldn't know. And that's kind of what you need to know when you're up here and you're going really fast. But I'm not going that fast compared to many others up here. Oh my goodness. It's just beautiful though. Conditions might not be perfect. There might be a bit too much traffic on the road, but what a wonderful place. And this car, sorry, we haven't talked about this car for a couple of minutes, have we? It's unreal. I mean, it's the perfect car for this, it really is. The way it eats up these straights, the way it devours all of the bumps and the imperfections on this tarmac's just unreal, really is. The brakes feel so good. Good brakes inspire confidence. Oh, look at that. You can see the rain in the distance. Fantastic. Imagine being one of those absolute heroes coming down here on a bike, flat out, using all the road because obviously it's closed when the TT's happening. So you can use big, long, sweeping lines. Oh, it would just be wonderful. I don't know the names of any of the corners, unfortunately, but this is beautiful. Although there's a big stone wall on the outside. That's what I'm always thinking and looking at, even in a car, let alone if I was on a bike. The dangers. What if I come off here at 100 miles an hour? I think it's the last left-hander before we drop down to the Craig pub. Yep. I only know that because I've been going to that pub. Oh my goodness. They do fantastic food in there. Really nice pub. Very, very friendly staff as well. And then we'll slow things down a bit because now we're coming into Douglas, which is the capital of the Isle of Man, and speed limits start coming back into place about a mile down the road. But hopefully that's given you some idea of what the mountain is like. And I'm sure at 5 a.m. in the middle of summer, a run along there in the dry, if you knew where you were going, wow. I need to come back. I will come back. I will come back. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it gave you a small taste of what Peter Hickman and all of those other Isle of Man TT riders must endure on this wonderful, wonderful island. Right then, let's test out this car's claimed acceleration figures. Audi say it will do the 0 to 60 sprint in just 3.2 seconds. Conditions outside are far from perfect. In fact, the tarmac is a little bit damp, but we should be right because we've got Quattro all-wheel drive system. I'm in sports automatic, my race box mini is ready to go. Left foot is hard down the brake, right foot on the accelerator, launch control program activated, here we go. Oh my goodness! 2.93 seconds and my head hurts. I've had this car for 5 days and covered 800 relatively hard miles in it, so I feel like I know it very well. And recently, as in 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually had a Grenadine Red RS6 Performance. Part of the reason I got that car was because I knew this car was coming and I wanted some fresh seat time so that I could compare them, at least from memory, back to back, because it's no secret that I think the C8 RS6 or RS6 Performance is a fantastic car, and its biggest trump card as far as I'm concerned compared to cars like the M3 Touring is its ride quality. That air suspension is sublime. So I was a bit hesitant going into this knowing that it's on fully adjustable coilover suspension, because that normally means a stiffer ride. It normally means the car feels more race car. Something like my M2 Competition with its Bilstein Club Sports, well, it's great out on track, but to be honest, on the road, it's just too stiffly sprung. It gets unsettled very easily. So I was worried that this car would have the same trait. But I'm happy to report that the suspension in this GT is absolutely wonderful. And in fact, the biggest standout feature of this car. I knew it had potential to be, on paper at least, and I knew that in terms of upgrades, it was the biggest upgrade compared to an RS6 Performance. But I was worried, like I just said, that it would ruin that beautiful, fluid ride of the regular car. And I tell you what, it hasn't at all. And this car's next big stand-up feature will come as no surprise. We've already talked about them. It's these seats. At last, an RS6 with a perfect driving position. I'm sitting nice and low. I'm feeling connected to the chassis and that wonderful suspension system we've just talked about. They really help with the overall package. I feel supported going through tight and twisties like these. They're really comfortable. I can't praise them high enough. They are fantastic and they really have transformed an already brilliant car. Time for my conclusion. When Audi launched and released this car last summer, I thought it was nothing more than a fancy marketing stunt. I couldn't be more wrong. They've taken the already brilliant RS6 performance package and improved on it. And sure, you're paying an extra 60 odd grand for that. But if you've got the money, just like with the F90 M5 CS, it's worth every penny. It is a special car. It feels £180,000 good. Before I sign off, I want to say a massive thanks to everyone out here on the Isle of Man. From the people on the ferry that made me feel very welcome on the way out, to everyone that I've met on the island itself, my lovely hosts at my B&B, a random farmer called Mark who I met up on the mountain pass a couple of days ago, took him for a passenger ride. I think he had a blast. And of course, people like Peter Duke and his son Ben, who came up earlier and took me for a passenger ride in his one owner from new Subaru 22B. I mean, life doesn't get any better, especially when I reflect on what my life was like only 2 or 3 months ago when I was basically bedridden.
Plastic box of boots.
Oh, that boost! Oh,
Sounds nice, doesn't
it just sounds wonderful. The way it rides as well.
it? For little cars like that.
It's fantastic. Probably feels a bit slower with 100 kilos in the passenger seat.
No, that's all right.
Oh my goodness. Well, I didn't think I'd be doing this in the Isle of Man.
Bounced around in a 22B.
Massive thanks to Misha for introducing me to Peter Duke and his 22B. I mean, life does not get much better than this. Wow. The full Isle of Man experience. Look at those views.
Yeah, it looked fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
That's all right.
That's
Thank
really
you for
cool.
running yours.
Oh. GT85, well, I couldn't have done this trip without your help. You've supported me over the past 6 months and you're going to support me throughout 2025. And filming videos like this out here for 4.5, 5 days, even down to the 7 tanks of premium unleaded I put in this car, well, I simply couldn't afford to do that off ad revenue alone, unless this video gets millions of views, and I really hope it does, but in the world of YouTube today, I very much doubt it. So massive thanks to GT85. Make sure you check them out in the description below. And final thanks as we go up this mountain climb one last time is to all of you guys and girls for watching my content. Without you, I wouldn't be doing this. And I tell you what, this trip, I'll never forget this trip or this car. I can't wait to come back out here. Genuinely cannot wait. What a place. What a fantastic place and what a fantastic car. Guys, I'll see you in another video very, very soon. Cheers.